at the top level, for like, instant transaction speeds, basically like zero transaction fees. Is that fair? Like what's going to be
when you start discussing transaction fees, you can technically allow zero fee transactions, but then you have this spam problem, which was why the fees were introduced in Ethereum in the first place. But we are definitely discussing negligible transaction fees. You can easily, I guess, compensate the transaction fees for users, but then again, you have this spam issue problem, that maybe can be also addressed. It's a thing to discuss and consider, but
certainly.
And then an important thing, actually, which I didn't really mention, a huge thing, is that on Polkadot, on Avalanche, and on Polygon, even on those chains, on the transaction fees. So on Scale, there has been always zero transaction fees, which is a huge thing, because zero transaction fees are hugely different from tiny transaction fees. Because if even the transaction fee is even tiny, you still need to have a token, and it becomes chicken and egg. How you have a new user to use the system because the user doesn't have the token, and to get the token to the user, you have the user in the system. So it's a huge problem.
And we took a look at the problem and we were like, okay, we have 1,000 order places and cancellations per second. So the natural question you would ask is, what blockchain can handle 1,000 order places and cancellations per second, ideally with minimal to no fees, right? Because on DYDX v3 right now, again, if we're not trying to take a huge step backwards in terms of UX, we want that to be basically free or as close to it as we can manage. Took a look around and we're like, no blockchain, Cosmos included, is even close to like 1,000 transactions per second right now at all, let alone like, it doesn't even matter if you pay like the highest gas fees ever. It's just not within the bounds of the throughput of the system.
And these chains are very special because they have very fast finality, and that's due to the consensus and cryptography technology that SKALE Network has combined. They run very fast, about up to 2,000 transactions per second. You can really throw very interesting contracts at this, so it runs full state smart contracts. It comes with a native file storage layer. It comes with a native random number generator endpoint that allows you to help develop contracts and have a really solid source of entropy. And it comes with a native expandable bridge, which is a really incredible bridge that allows tokens and messages to be exchanged or transacted with any SKALE chain and with any Ethereum network chain.
There's MEV to contend with. Have you thought about like how to approach this MEV question when there's a ton of volume going through DYDX in very fast transactions, and now it's its own like L1 validating network?
Yeah, it's a great question. And like, first things first, like, I don't know. I don't have like all the answers. Of course, we're thinking about it. Yes, these are issues. But I think just like zoom out, and then I promise I'll like actually talk about the real question too. But if you like zoom out, like nobody in DeFi has figured this out yet, right? Like nobody has figured out like how to fully combat MEV. Nobody has figured out how to have like really super low latency DeFi platforms.
So not only threshold encryption can magically and provably protect against pretty much all kinds of front-running and MEV, it also doesn't require you to change anything in your blockchain. It just comes for free. So you can take a blockchain that SKALE runs, and it's protected using threshold encryption. And then you can take the source code of any DeFi application you want. You can take Uniswap, you can take SushiSwap, you can take Aave, you can take anything, and you just run this on SKALE chain, and it suddenly becomes immune against front running. So people that will use a Uniswap clone on SKALE, they won't have to pay those fees to front runners. The system becomes much more efficient, and the exchange rate is becoming much more favorable for people.